Nigeria Stock Exchange opens after its worst week this year. Securities and Exchange Commission SEC seeks fiscal incentives for listed firms to deepen markets. And new excise duty for alcoholic beverages and tobacco takes effect from today. This is Business Express reaching you from the network service of the NTA. I am Amina Nijoim, and we shall continue to look into the performance of the present administration in the last 3 years. Thank you for joining us. In the news today, the new excise duty for alcoholic beverages and tobacco, earlier approved by President Muhammadu Buhari, will take effect from today, Monday, the 4th of June 2018. This is according to documents by the federal government. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, in March announced that the President had granted a grace period of 90 days to manufacturers of products, and the new excise duty rates would spread over a 3-year period from 2018 to 2020 in order to moderate the impact of prices of the products. She stated that the upward review of the excise duty rates for alcoholic beverages and tobacco was to raise government's fiscal revenues and reduce health hazards associated with tobacco-related diseases and alcohol abuse. The International Monetary Fund, in its 2017 mission, advised Nigeria to raise the excise duty on a stick of cigarette to 5 naira. The presidency has released a fact sheet outlining the policy and achievements of the Buhari administration for the past 3 years. A statement signed by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, highlights successes in the economy, security and the fight against corruption, which forms the 3 priorities of the Buhari administration change agenda.
Following sections: resetting the economy, restoring growth, growing what we eat, making business work, doing more with less, investing in people, new vision for the Niger Delta, plugging leakages, and justice reforms. The fact sheet, which will be updated regularly, showcases improving economic indices, rising investments in agriculture and infrastructure. In addition, it lists the several measures taken to promote transparency and accountability in government finances. Highlights of the fact sheet include the following. Nigeria's economy is back on the path of growth after the recession of 2016-17, with 1.95% growth in Q1 of 2018. The Buhari administration's priority sectors of agriculture and solid minerals maintained consistent growth throughout the recession. Inflation has fallen for the 15th consecutive month. External reserves of $47.5 billion are the highest in 5 years. Total exports in 2017 were 59.47% higher than for 2016. The first quarter of 2018 saw the 4th consecutive quarterly increase in capital importation since Q2 of 2017. The new FX window introduced by the CBN in April 2017 now sees an average of $1 billion in weekly turnover. Nigeria's stock market ended 2017 as one of the best performing in the world, with returns in excess of 40%. 5 million new taxpayers added to the tax base since 2016 as part of efforts to diversify government's revenues. Tax revenue increased to 1.17 trillion naira in Q1 of 2018, a 51% increase on the Q1 2017 figure. 2.7 trillion naira spent on infrastructure in 2016 and 2017 fiscal years, an unprecedented allocation in Nigeria's recent history. 14 moribund blending plants revitalized so far under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, PFI, with a total capacity of 2.3 million metric tons of NPK fertilizer. In May 2018, the federal government launched the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, PIDF. Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, in March 2018 invested $10 million to establish a world-class cancer treatment center at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH. The Buhari administration issued a 100 billion naira sukuk bond in 2017, Nigeria's first sovereign sukuk bond.
Dennis there. Now joining me to discuss the fact sheet of the present administration's 3 years journey on the economy is Uche Oluwu. He is the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
2.7 trillion naira has been spent on infrastructure between 2016 and 2017. Now, as a banker, what's the implication and what does this translate to?
Yeah, thank you. Infrastructure is key driver and critical enabler for growth and sustainable development in any society. And we know where we're coming from, the deficit in infrastructure. So this government, having said this, believes that in order to jumpstart the economy and required growth that is expected, needed to spend more on critical areas. Power, rail, and road constructions. These are, key areas that we've seen significant investment going on. It's very important because without power, no matter what we're talking about SME growth and all that, it's not going to happen. Good roads, because the agricultural revolution has made it such that there are a lot of crop productions and all that, even in the rural areas. How do we get this products into the society, to the cities require good roads and all that infrastructure. Movement from one point to the other also, so it's very critical.
There is an existing gap in infrastructure, and
Right.
the federal government is trying to fill in that deficit. Would you say we've gone far in trying to bridge the gap?
Statistics have it that it's just a scratch. We have not done it, it's, yes, the investment is in the right direction. The trajectory of growth, it's all right. Okay, but you need more. But of course, that is subject to the kind of revenue that is available to government, their funding. And that brings me to the fact that, yes, can the government, there are other more rational approach or investment approach to do it. Government cannot do it alone. There are various investment processes, that is concessioning, PPP and all that. These are areas because Nigerian potential is huge, but the problem has been, what is drawback is deficit in infrastructure, and it's a no-brainer. I must commend the government because the willpower, everybody knows that infrastructure is a problem, but the willpower to drive this is what is commendable for the government.
Let me come in here. The journey into the debt market. We have issuance of debt and more local borrowing. Let's talk about the implication of this and the role it has played in the development of Nigeria.
Well, debt, borrowing in respect of funding infrastructure will be an ideal situation, but we have in the recent past borrowing for consumption, which, as it were, isn't right. And that's also, bring us to the fact that, yes, the government seems to be hesitating, because it was crowding out the private investors, private fund seekers, and that has its own problem, because an average banker will want to go to the marriage risk, so they want to go to where the sovereign risk is better than taking the other risk. So what it means is that monies were, sent to the government coffers, but government seems to be exiting the local debt in preference for foreign debt. I think it's a commendable this, because the discipline of those foreign debt will make us to ensure that we execute those projects that is meant to be executed.
Okay. Latest figures show that Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve has increased in the month of May by 0.27%.
Thank you.
Now, coming from a banker's perspective, what is the implication of this?
Well, you see, first of all, what is the accretion? The accretion is coming from a spike in oil reserve, the price. So that's where most of the accretion is coming, and also partly because the substitution in terms of the agricultural products that we normally, import. So we are having quite a lot of savings. What that means is that there is more confidence on investors wanting to bring in there, because at any point in time, we have the capacity to meet that obligation. So investors will, having that's part of the thing that is growing confidence because of the accretion in reserve, the way we have managed the reserve, the terms of various monetary policies that were put in place by central government. I want to central bank. I want to commend them, because what it means is that as we are accruing the reserves, the investors have the confidence that when they bring in their money, there is money to take when they want to take it out. So I must say, yes, we should continually see how we can sustain the tempo, most especially that the prices are going up. So savings, will help us.
Now, talking about attracting investors, where is the ease of doing business in all of this?
It's very, very, nobody, you want to go to a place where, one, there is rule of law. One, another is that, there's that you can easily move from one point to the other without, the infrastructures, and then the governance. Governance are there to ensure that, conflicts are properly adjudicated and all of that. So for ease of doing business, that's what we've been in our institute. Chartered Institute of Bankers is at the forefront of fighting for ease of doing business, because what that means is that the investors will come once it is, I was the other day talking with the CAC Registrar General. It's a lot easier now to go register a company without any, and then the anti-corruption crusade is putting fears into so many people that, at least that you cannot do under G, what we call under G transactions. So, and the whistleblowing policy is also there. So people have been, all this add up to making sure that I think we need to sustain the tempo, improve on it, and then you see investors coming. Governance is very critical.
Technology comes to mind. We live in a modern era where technology plays a very significant role in the way people do business.
Yeah.
Now, coming from a banking perspective, let's talk about how technology has aided development of transactions within the banking system and Nigeria's development. Yeah,
you see, that's area where the banks have invested massively, because, like I said always, technology shapes behavior and the way we live. Consumer preference has changed. Before it was ATM, okay? With the ATM, you can easily draw cash, okay? Right now, people don't want to carry more cash, so mobile, internet banking. So you've seen the way the shift. So the bankers are following the consumer preference, okay? Because at the end of the day, what is happening? Speed, convenience for consumers, and that's what they want. And bankers have always followed that trend. Massive investment by bank, because technology is driving banking payment system all globally. The artificial interface is key. We no longer have so much of reliance on brick and mortar anymore. It is, it's driven by technology, and Nigerian banks are not lagging behind. The fourth industrial revolution, this country, that is what is going to liberate this country, and we have the resources.
What's the place of financial institutions in all of this?
The financial institutions, one, on their own part, because we look at it from the external and internal. On the internal part, for them to serve their customer very well, they have to, drive technology. Now, what the concept here is the shared technology, shared services, where, because the investments are huge and humongous, so they're coming together on making sure that they would drive financial inclusion, because technology would drive financial inclusion. In terms of the other part would be that on human capacity building, in terms of, that is area where we need to pay a lot of emphasis because capacity building in this area is very critical. I must say that we're not really there. And that's why in Chartered Institute of Bankers, we are saying that we're going to review curriculum development because capacity building is critical in all of this.
Now, in closing, investing in people is capacity building.
Correct.
And when investors come in, they produce goods and services.
Correct.
So as we round up, let's talk about how this administration has invested in people, which is one of its primary agendas.
Yeah, the investment is that I want to say yes, fine, we are not there. That's my view. We have the plans on paper. They're trying to, because the universities are still not well funded. The private, except the private universities, the curriculum is not, in tune with the marketplace, the dictates of the marketplace. I think more investment should go to, education. Because without education, even if you put all the infrastructure and without the people to drive them, because the quality of labor workforce, the quality is so abysmal. And that's why you see some investors complain that when they come here, they don't even see that kind of right quality mix. So it is very important and very critical. I think is it Bill Gates that once said that, look, in all that you do, pay serious attention to capacity building, right from the primary to the tertiary institution. I think we need to tweak our curriculum because now it is talent-driven approach rather than theoretical approach, and that is very important. In terms of the technological hub, I think Nigeria has done very well. We will continue to support them. The banks are ready to support any endeavor or ventures that, has to do with technology.
In summary, Nigeria is making progress.
Nigeria is making progress.
We are moving forward.
Yeah, we are moving forward.
Mr. Uche Olowu.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Uche is the President, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Ida.
Now, moving on. Equities halted losing streak after 11 days of losses to gain marginally by 0.36%. Bosede Abel has an update on performances.
It was a 4-day trading session last week due to the public holiday declared by the federal government in commemoration of Democracy Day. A total of 2.6 billion shares worth 84.7 billion naira in 19,715 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization depreciated by 6.38% to close the week at 36.8 trillion naira. The financial services industry measured by volume led the activity chart with 2.4 billion shares valued at 78.4 billion naira in 11,403 deals. The conglomerates industry followed with 76.8 million shares worth 126.3 million naira in 835 deals. The third place was occupied by consumer goods industry with a turnover of 64.4 million shares worth 4.4 billion naira in 3,491 deals. Traded in the top 3 equities measured by volume were led by Stanbic IBTC Holdings PLC, Access Bank PLC and Zenith Bank International PLC, which accounted for 1.6 billion shares worth 70.2 billion naira in 2,882 deals. The top gainers were led by Eternal PLC, Cement Company of Northern Nigeria and Mutual Benefit Assurance, while the losers were topped by International Breweries, Lafarge Africa and Fort Oil. Also traded were a total of 22,080 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 393,726.30 thousand naira, executed in 10 deals. A total of 6,433 units of federal government bonds valued at 6.5 million naira were traded in 12 deals. 25 equities appreciated in price, 48 equities depreciated, while 96 equities remained unchanged.
Bossede Abel there. Now, at the close of trading today, the all-share index advanced by 0.36% to close at 36,947.1 basis point. Market capitalization stood at 13.383 trillion naira. Volume of trade was 314 million, valued at 7.033 billion in 6,016 deals. Guarantee Trust Bank, Sovereign Insurance and FBN Holdings dominated trades. Now to the Securities and Exchange Commission has advocated that some measure of fiscal incentives for listed companies on the Nigerian Stock Exchange in order to mitigate their cost burden and encourage more entities to list shares on the bourse. Apart from reduction of cost, the measures, according to SEC, will translate to huge investment benefit to shareholders and also further position quoted companies to contribute more to national development through improved capacity and job creation potential. The Acting Director General of the Commission, Ms. Mary Uduk, who advocated the fiscal necessity in Lagos, also believes that creating some form of fiscal incentives for listed entities will add further mileage to ongoing efforts to improve corporate governance in the country. Let's now take a look at how global stocks are faring, and Muplang Dakok is our guide.
Markets in Africa closed trading in positive sentiment. The week ended. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 gained 2.19% to close at 50,875.01, while Kenya's Nairobi All-Share Index depreciated by 0.39%. The Tun Index of Tunisia went up 0.42% and closed at 7,647.64. Namibia Overall Index gained 1.38% and closed at 1,345.48. And Ghana's JSE Composite Index closed at 3,192.30 basis points, gaining 0.78%. Global stocks rebounded to close last week as President Trump is scheduled to meet Group of 7 leaders in Quebec this week. Dow Jones Industrial Average appreciated by 0.90%. S&P 500 Index gained 1.08% and Nasdaq Composite advanced 1.51% to close trading. In Europe, FTSE 100 Index inched up 0.31%. DAX Index appreciated 0.95% and CAC 40 Index also added 1.24% in the same vein. Stocks in Asia closed mixed. Hang Seng Index advanced 0.08%, while Nikkei 225 and Shanghai Index dropped by 0.14% and 0.84%.
Many thanks, Muplang. The information and communications technology sector, which has seen a growth of 10%, has significantly affected the growth of Nigeria's GDP with an increase of 1.4% in the broadband penetration. Speaking in Lagos, President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry described the sector as a catalyst aimed at transforming and diversifying the economy.
If you are not using ICT to drive your business presently, you don't know what you are missing. Undoubtedly, if you get it right by way of ICT, if you factor it into the various part of our living, our lives, even controlling traffic, distribution of things, warehousing, ICT can contribute 80% of developing our GDP by.
I'm a big advocate and big believer that Technology will continue to grow as a component, as a percentage of GDP. It's about 12% now. No reason why it shouldn't get about to 17, 18%. Oil is about 8%, but impact 60% of GDP. Technology is actually increasingly impacting much more of GDP than anything else.
And that's a wrap on Business Express today. Thank you for joining us. I am Amina Nujeni.